That's when I first joined the order. I went to Detroit in about, 1945, 46 in there. And I approached the monastery. Who came to the door to greet me? Father Solanus and Brother Leo. The two of them, including Brother Rufin Powers, a very older brother. I came in the wee hours of the morning because of a late train. And so Father Solanus said he welcomed me in. Brother Leo welcomed me. They were waiting for me. They knew the train was late. And the first thing Father Solanus, after greeting me, says, "How about some cookies and milk?" And so they ushered me to the kitchen, and that's happened. He says, "Now I'm going to tell you something." He says, "When you hear the bell in the morning, when you hear us praying, you sleep because you had a long trip." I'll never forgot that part. Very good. So then I was with him for 2 years in my novitiate and so on. I helped out after I became simple professed. I helped out at the door. Father Solanus worked on one desk and I worked on the other. So I really got to know a little bit about Father Solanus by just watching him. I had my work to do. I took care of the people that would come in, and then I'd say, "Okay, next." And then they would see Father Solanus because there were lots and lots of people would come. I remember one time taking care of the door with Father Solanus. A little boy and his mother and dad came in, and the little boy was paralyzed from about here to the chest, legs and everything. He was in braces. And so a man came in and his wife and says, "Father," I said, "I want this little child healed." And Father ignored the little child. He said, "You go to confession. You and your wife go to confession." The confessional was off at the office a ways in the chapel. He said, "I didn't come in here to go to confession. I came here to get that kid healed." He said, "You go to confession." So the wife prompted him to go with her. And he leave the little boy there. The little boy just sat there. He couldn't do anything anyhow. And really, I ignored the kid, and so did Father Solanus. The little kid was just there. And after a little while, the parents came back, and the little child says to his mother, "Mama, my legs are getting warm." Up to that time, when you're paralyzed, you're completely cold, very cold. And I learned about 3-4 weeks later, he had feelings in his leg. Now, we wouldn't chalk that up as a miracle because he was alive, but nevertheless, it was a favor granted through the power, the healing power of confession. At least that's what I firmly believe. Possibly another time would be in Huntington. I lived with him for 3 years in Huntington. Father Solanus used to play the violin. He'd play lots of Irish tunes. His best one was "Pop Goes the Weasel" because of his arthritic finger. And he'd go pop, and it would pop just perfect on cue. And he enjoyed it. He'd hum it along the way, sing along a little bit. And he was very, I sat down with him a number of different times, and he took care of Father Damasus. Father Damasus was an elderly priest who was blind. And Father Solanus would feed him when brother could not help him, as such. Well, anyhow, Father, like I said, I was there with him 3 years. And I answered the door, the phone, and they had asked for Father Solanus. And only once in that whole time did I see Father Solanus probably frown a little bit. Not a distinctive frown, But I think he was caught up in the moment of whatever he was doing, and I came along and said, "Father, there's 100 people down in the office want to see you." And he kind of shrugged a little bit, but it wasn't that pronounced. He got up and jolly went down there and took care of the people and all that. And then he asked me if I'd help him a little bit, which I did. And in the office there with so many people coming up. And there was, I can't remember some of the incidents at that particular time, but when all those people came, I can't recall. There was one incident, but I can't recall it to mind at this point. Father Solanus had an open sore in his leg, I guess that would be it. And I said, "Father, you run around in bare feet out in the snow." I says, "That's not going to help that leg at all." And he says, "It's good. It's very hot right now. Now it's cooling down." So he used to go out in the snow. I hope and pray that I am alive to see the beatification of Solanus, because there's so much to tell you. I've been up in Prescott where he was born. I purposely went up there with my nephew, and being so close and working with Father Solanus and Brother Leo, the two of them, brought me in close proximity with, may I put it this way, with the blessed of heaven. It's a joy to live in those men's presence, not saying anything about all those other wonderful Capuchins that we have, throughout the province, but still those two men in my life were very important. When I was sitting at the desk watching Father Solanus interact with people, he was very much in control of just that one person, or those two people, if man, wife, or husband and wife, whatever, or children or everything. He was always in control of that particular subject. Anybody else around that desk, unless there was a little child or something, but he wasn't concerned at all. And when he talked, his voice would be elevated a little bit because of his elder age. Nevertheless, he breathed, if I may put it that way, his breath almost seemed like it was holiness coming out into that person. And that person's receptivity was drinking in that holiness. It's probably a very poor way of putting it, but it's a way of saying there was a lots of grace. And those Irish blue eyes, when he would light up to that point, well, I would not say it's heaven, but at least it was a little heaven on earth to see those Irish blue eyes, because it was really brilliant in that sense. His holiness stood out very pronounced. The trust in God. I might mention something about that. One time I asked Father Solanus, this is Huntington, after his jubilee as a priest, 50 years as a priest. I said, "Father, we were alone in the upstairs, second floor in Huntington. Father, tell me, why do you always say, make sure you thank God, and make sure you thank God now before things happen?" He said, "Well, it's simple." Again, he has a little high-pitched voice. "Well, brother," he says, "it's very simple. You thank God ahead of time for all the graces that God is going to give you." So thank God ahead of time was always one of his favorite sayings. And that I really think is important, that he doesn't grant every single thing you ask, because it may not be at the right time for you, or it may not be a proper way of God working. We don't know that. But in that simplicity and that trust, we could ask. And many times, and as I say, it happened to me, it was granted.